Good morning, everyone. Bill Droege again from Turnkey Technologies, hoping to give you an overview today of production supply chain capabilities inside of Dynamics 365 Business Central. I just want to kind of highlight this. I'm going to kind of go back and forth between a little bit of PowerPoint and actual demonstration with a demonstration account. But just the highlights of the specifics I want to cover this morning, and it's quite really not a lot of time. We got about 30 minutes and to hand off to my colleague Javier, but we got some deep capability here in Business Central related to production and supply chain. I want to talk about some of those capabilities around production where we can handle assembly bombs. If you're just basically in your organization, you're putting materials together, not really raw materials. Maybe you're putting a chair together, right? You put the legs and a seat and you hit the back on it, that type of thing. You can do that with an assembly bomb or bill of materials. You can do discrete assembly where you're actually creating manufacturing something from a raw material. Maybe you're taking a plastic and creating a mold and making something out of that. I think I have one of those in my examples today. And then we have process manufacturing where you're actually taking and mixing multiple raw materials together to get an output. So we can handle all of those. We do very good at the assembly discrete piece. Process gets a little more extensive with that. I mean, we may have to bring in an extension that there are extended capabilities of Business Central to allow to go to deeper levels or higher levels of the applications that we deal with. Then we'll do demand planning and forecasting. How do we keep your inventory so that you can make these products and deliver them on time to fulfill your customer requirements? So how do we plan and forecast those items to get them there, have it there when you need it? And then inventory, warehouse, and management. How do we move that material around inside your organization? Multiple warehouses, directed to bins and locations, put away, and then picks to do that. And then we'll wrap up a little bit of analytics in terms of how do we look at these processes and capabilities, and how do you assess where you're at with any of them. So kind of moving through that, I'll start with the production capabilities. And the first thing we talk about is maybe a production bomb. Again, this is kind of an assembly capability here, and I'll show you what we're doing is we're putting a kind of a Wi-Fi camera together is our example. So we're going to take and build the camera assembly as a subcomponent. So there's a bomb within a bomb, if you will. And then this is the finished good, or the finished good we're producing at the end. We're actually boxing it, staging it, putting instructions in the last stage of it before it goes out the door. So that capability is built in to do multi-tier bombs or multi-level bombs, in half pieces of the appropriate components, pull those into to the application, to the process. This is kind of how we start a production order. We would, when we get to a production order, we'll start with a sales order, and the customer will ask for materials, and then that will drop to production work orders, and then we'll drop those through and we'll release them. We'll do planning against them, which I'm going to show you in a bit, in terms of if I don't have product to immediately start that, how do I get that product? How do I start that process, and how do I kick off my production bomb? I'm going to talk about next about some of the assembly pieces and routing and production capabilities. So the two really differences in between an assembly bomb and a production bomb is that you have a routing capability. And from that, you can actually do a work center where you're actually in assembly. That's typically what you're doing, where you're taking components together at a work center and assembling them. Or you can have a machine center, which is more the production bomb again. So that would be on a real discrete or process production item. So then what we would do there was we'd say, yeah, we're going to put it through this process machine center. Then we're going to add something to it. We go back to work center. So we've got a labor piece and machine piece. Inside of that, we have tracking in terms of the routing, in terms of setup and start time, scrap, waste capability to track that as well on each of these processes as we go through them. So it's pretty extensive that way. Again, Business Central is pretty much defined as a small, medium business application. So we're talking about the SMB market. So if you're in that range of, maybe up to $25 million gross or more, it's very extensive. Again, we can add things onto it, but these processes that we're looking to do are fairly simple, and we have our experience is a lot of discrete and assembly components. I'll show you an example of a process BOM that we worked with a couple of customers on. But so what happens, we eventually get a material requisition, so we'll go out and get these components that we need for the assembly, pull them together for the actual staging, the work order, and then we can move into doing that process. Then we'll put times tracking on the order so we know how long things are being taken to do particular processes. We can have standard set up again in the routing to be able to compare that to standard, and then we'll start to track and get a good idea of what the costs are involved in these particular processes to do that. So we'll have a standard cost typically for these particular processes in the end finished good, and then we can compare that over time if there's any processes that are continuing to change. This is kind of a look of more of a production BOM here where we're going to put some ingredients together. We worked with a few food processors here, and this particular customer was dealing with bakery goods and how they put those together. So from the production side, and then one other piece I want to make sure we understood is that all of the Business Central capabilities are mobile, and here's some of the production capabilities on there. So again, you can, and then that's a little blurry now that I look at it, to be able to get through this to, step right through that on your mobile phone. The other process, the big thing is how do we consume materials in the production side? And we do this for the various flushing methods. We do a forward flush, a forward by operation, a back flush, and a back flush by entire order, for the entire order. So you can do that at any level, whatever that helps support your inventory consumption and whatever your current processes are. I'm going to jump out for just 1 second just to give you a quick overview of a live demo. And I'm going to go in here. This is kind of a standard look. The biggest thing about Business Central, I know how many of you have investigated to this level to be able to get into a sample account or start a sample trial, and we'll talk to you about helping you to do that. But basically, it's a really graphic interface here, tracking all these kind of transactions that are involved in your organization, open quotes, orders, invoices, purchase orders. So it kind of moves left to right from a quote to an order and an invoice, purchase order to a receipt, to an invoice to a payables invoice, payment. It's tracking all these key kind of activities and metrics for you. And then it has the ability, if something goes past due, it'll turn red, it'll draw your attention to it, and it gives you really a focus on, where you should be spending your time to relieve any bottlenecks or any types of holdups in terms of your delivering product to your customers. The other scenario we have tied into this, and I'll talk a little more about the analytics, is we have the ability for Power BI that's embedded in Business Central, and you can take some out of the box. There's some standards that we'll start you up with, and then you can work to get more specific ones and then there's always the drill down capability. You can search down into different pieces of that. Timesheets are integrated to the production, so people that can log in and collect their timesheets and apply it to their particular work orders and those types of things, transactions. The biggest thing to understand is that this is a role-based application in terms of security. Right now I'm in kind of a business manager role, which is a high-level role that allows me across a lot of different capabilities. So I can do credit collections, business manager. So as you get into a more specific role scenario, you're going to get a different set of KPIs and focus. And then you'll also have different security settings so that people that are in the manufacturing side may not have access to the accounting. Business managers kind of crossing those lines, but also who's going to set up, manage human resources, finance, all these different application components inside of Business Central. So this is a full and deep ERP capability. I'm going to now jump back a little bit to my PowerPoint. I don't want to get you dizzy here, but so I showed you a little bit of where we were at, and we talked about the flushing, and now let's talk a little bit about supply chain capabilities. So now we've got our business production processes understood. We got our bombs understood in terms of what products are used in what in creation of what finished goods, what raw materials are used in finished goods, what items are assembled into a finished good, into an assembled item. So now we want to understand how do we maintain those materials so that we can build these items as customers order them. So we're talking about item reorder settings in terms of individual items being reordered at certain levels. And then we're going to talk about forecasting, either historic and also collaborative forecasting, where you might have an idea, and that's probably a really big issue today coming out of the business kind of down that we've had over the last couple of months. So a lot of people have been off their normal business levels, and being able to input a forecast to kind of correct for that is kind of going to be a key issue as you come out of the current business climate. So just as far as the inventory and the reorder capabilities, we can set up and we'll track the individual items down to what's on hand, what's on order, what we got outstanding. So we have customer orders and we got purchase orders outstanding. I'll set those if we're just selling through that. We'll have the capability then to also talk about then how do we want to replenish an item. So we can set up with reorder points. There's a couple of different replenishment methods. There's a min-max capability. It's fairly simple. You can set those thresholds, min and max. We have a reorder point that can be calculated. So when I get here, I trigger a buy up. Maybe I buy up to max, or if I don't have even a reorder point, I may have safety stock level. Safety stock level could serve as the reorder point if we understand, again, what's our lead time from our suppliers. When I get to this level, I need to reorder. So the system would suggest I reorder and would suggest me up to a particular level, stock level. It would also take into account if the supplier had a particular minimum order quantity and enforce that. And also if you had to order in multiples, maybe you had to order 5 at a time, 10 at a time, those type of scenarios. Another capability we install or have the items defined. One of the big thing also too is to set up this ordering calculation, and this is kind of a simple format of it, to identify kind of an ABC allocation. We can order by order, by your customer order, and build to order, if you will. If you have a very high cost item, you don't want to stock much of it. You just only want to build it when it is required from a customer order level. We have a B level kind of supply level item calculation. We could do lot for lot. So that's going to use more of the reorder point calculations. It's going to say, hey, go in and buy to this level, keep some of this inventory on hand. It's not real costly or high cost items in terms of your cost tolerance here. And then we have a reorder point item. This is a low scale. It's low on the cost. It's fairly low volume. We'll just keep a standard amount of it in the inventory, again, to balance our total inventory investment. So this capability all takes us then into the process that we're going to then start to plan our work, our production work, and also our purchases and material movement to be able to get the item in the right place so that we can start our production and finish on time, make those commitments that we make to customers on our sales orders. So what we have is a plan calculation here that we can go through and use to calculate on a normal historic forecasting. So in the background, these transactions, as you sell these items and move these items, consume them in production, is going to create a ledger card type transaction that the system can look at and use and calculate your average usage. So there's a ledger transaction that's going to do that historic forecasting, right? What have I used over time? This is the level I should probably maintain, and give you some help in terms of that, and suggest how many you need over lead time on an average sale basis. So we'll have ledger history to do that. The other nice feature to that is then you can also impact the planning with a forecast. So forecast says, I know something's coming up. So I'm predicting something that's outside of my history. So I'll show you that a little more depth. Here's kind of the output for the planning worksheets. Tells us, here's are the items I need to support my production. I need to purchase them. I need to create production orders or release production orders to get those going. I've got material here, so I can go ahead and release these. So you're kind of running it from an MPS standard, from material supply, and then also from an MRP standard. In fact, those are the two capabilities within the planning capability. You can run it at one flavor or the other. If you're straight supply, you wouldn't run the MRP piece of it. If you're both, you'd run both of those in that calculation. So then here's the forecast piece that I was looking at, the planning piece. If I knew, in here I'm building some doors, if I knew, yeah, my last few months historically are not what I would expect them to be, as I kind of pull out of uh, this business climate, I want to set in some forecast capability, or maybe I do a collaborative forecast with some customers, some big customers give me a heads up. Hey, I've got something coming up, a project or two. You need to be ready for that. So I can input an actual forecast and then again use that forecast in the demand planning calculation to say, hey, my history is not as relevant as it was. I need to have, or at least, and also I know something about the future, so I want to impact that in my planning. So the next piece is, how do we keep track of everything? How do we know where everything's at so we can direct that to the appropriate production capability and to sales capability? So from that, we do inventory and warehouse management. Now, Business Central supports multi-warehouse capability, provides for transfers as well. You can be into a distributive model or a central warehousing model, either one, and will support those. We can identify where materials at in any location. You can look like that and move things around. We can have outstanding capability. One of these might be a 3PL warehouse scenario that we might set up as one of your locations. So a lot of capability around that. Inside the warehouses, then we can identify, what do we need to do here? We can do a warehouse management capability that's kind of scaled. You can do fairly simple, just identify that you're going to put things in bins and what assign bins to particular items. Or we can just say, I'll just pick it first come, first served, and it depends how, where you're coming from really in terms of that. We can come from a pretty big paper-based scenario that you create picking tickets and go from there, and then move you more to a warehouse management capability where you identify bins within locations, within warehouses, and then you require a put away and a ship, send a pick out with designated bins so that you have a directed pick and put away capability so people know where they put it away correctly, so that when we go to pick it, we know it's going to be there. So those are some of the nice capabilities built around the warehouse management. Just want to show you again some of those ideas on the analytics. And I was back into my live demo again. I was talking to you a little bit about Power BI, and one of the issues here is kind of taking a look at these KPIs. So not only do we have Power BI, which I hope that you're starting to hear, this is basically an analytical tool that'll look at your data. So I'm going to look at, particular sales pieces. I select some of my reports to give you a little bit of the flavor. So I've got cash balances, I got customer profitability, financial performance, all of these different ones. And these are pretty much out of the box, and you can customize some of these and create your own and do that analysis. Where am I spending my money on my purchase analysis? A lot of good capability around your various applications and your various measurements. Again, we're going to take a look. There's another capability inside Business Central that allows you to do what we call schedules. And inside of schedules, we can kind of give you, like, here's a quick mini trial balance to say, hey, what am I doing in this particular period? If I move this out a little bit and go forward, backward. So my history's a little dated here, but so I can take a look at where I'm at. I'm managing this. Again, my business manager roles give me access to this. And I'm looking at my revenues and cost, and hey, what's going on with my margin here? So I want to have a capability. I want to go drill into that and see what makes that margin up. And it's going to tell me, oh, okay, this is my little mini schedule, and what I'm doing, I'm doing a gross margin calculation, and I'm measuring these revenue accounts. Well, what are these revenue accounts involved in, and where are they at for that particular period? So what it does, again, it's trying to alert you to, kind of manage by exception, to drill into items where you see an issue. Again, these transaction level things will change as they go from, in the green, good to go, to a red scenario. So even up here, we've got, transaction overall, sales, overdue, give you a little bit of the activities related to collections and sales, that type of thing. So some nice pieces there in terms of real focus or help you folks. And these are your metrics. You'll be able to impact your own metrics. I'm tracking my cash over here, accounts receivable. Again, I've got some higher level Power BI reporting there. So from the analytics, you got the embedded Power BI, financial schedules I talked about. The other thing is we can put an extension on the production side to allow you to be able to do some visual scheduling on your production stuff, more a Gantt chart look in terms of where particular production orders are and the production planning is at. So again, this is kind of the Power BI pieces that I just kind of reviewed. This is more the visual capability on the production orders. Where are these particular orders at? What phase? Where are they at in the timeline? Where's my deliverable? Some of these that are turning red are talking to due. I'm getting past due. I'm getting behind on some of these. So again, these are planned. These are the ones I'm about to release. These are firm plan that, yeah, I'm ready to go. I'm ready to release those, and these are actual release. So then that moves from the planning cycle on your production orders from, I want to plan them. Yeah, let's take a look. I'll start to acquire materials if I need for these production orders. I got a firm plan. Yeah, I'm good to go. I'm ready to release these guys. And then there's release, and now I'm really committed to them, and they're out on my production floor, and they're working. Same thing kind of around capacity and production scheduling. So if I know I've got particular workstations, either workers that have calendars, all the workers will be associated to their calendars, and we know how many hours a week they work, when is their days off, when the holidays are, those types of things, so that we can interface to the production scheduling. And then also your machine time, if you actually have a workstation that's a machine, we know how long we can run that daily. Do you run that 24/7, or you run it 12, 15 hours a day, something like that. Maybe have a maintenance break and periodically to do standard maintenance, PM maintenance on it, and then those machines might be down. So again, that would all be interfaced in production scheduling. So this is an extension. That's one that's not right out of the box with Business Central, but it's an easy one to add. And there are a lot of extensions as we get into a dialogue with you in terms of what your business focus really is, and where's your model. We can look at what the core Business Central looks like and say, yeah, we've got some industry unique application we can tie in. And those are fully integrated, and they're approved by Microsoft to be, and they have to get certified by Microsoft to get on basically on the Microsoft D365 App Store. This, again, the mobile capability across the system. I'm out in the field. I want to track orders or shipments. I'm looking at sales information. As a manager, I'm going into a customer site. I want to be able to talk to the customer intelligently about what he's buying from me, and what part of the business I want to kind of move him to. I can see where he's at, what he's buying, what he's high in, and what he's not, so that we can get more volume or profit from any particular prospect or opportunity. Kind of the last piece of roundup, and my big theme in Business Central today is kind of been value in depth. We can do quite a bit of the applications really deep on the SMB type capabilities in terms of the production side, inventory management, sales analysis, delivery, those types of things. And then the other real key to this in terms of the application depth is the value. So here we can start with a Business Central with a single user if you wanted to. We've had some very good success with startup companies where they're coming in. They don't really want to get embedded in a big system. They want to grow and add as they go in terms of user licenses and seats. So we can start from a very small footprint, if you will, and scale this thing much, much bigger. So I'd say on average, we're coming in 6, 8, 10 seats in some of the SMB accounts that we have, and then they might scale up to 100. And then really they've got these processes in place. They've got their accounting and their capability, or their business model in place. They make a capability of tried some warehouse management. They tried some advanced capabilities in accounting, maybe dimensional accounting, things like that. And then they kind of move wherever their business takes them from there. But this is again a very good. If you were considering a QuickBooks, this is a system that is a full-blown ERP, much simpler capability to do that. We have have big success converting new customers from QuickBooks. There's an embedded conversion capability that's delivered with Business Central. So this is a small footprint that is very scalable, very low cost of ownership to start. Build it out as you go. We can talk to you about setting up a sample or a test base for you to do a trial on. and you can even, sort of take a deeper dive there, or please contact us and Brad and I will come talk to you and see where you're at, doing a little analysis of where you're at in terms of the fit, and help you move forward.